Well, I got another video review for you guys. If you're a prepper like me, then this video is probably going to be something you want to watch. This here is the ALPICOOL T50 refrigerator freezer. This thing is only 350 bucks. I gotta say, the good thing about the Chinese is, you know, a lot of us can't afford American-made products just because they're so expensive nowadays, and a lot of this stuff here is, you know, made overseas. And I noticed that over the last few years, the market's gotten flooded with power stations and solar stuff and coolers and things like that. And I've noticed a big drop in price. And so, you know, just a couple of years ago, something like this would have been, you know, $500–600. And so, anyways, the market's getting more competitive with pricing. And then I can see that the quality of stuff is getting higher. One thing that I noticed when I reached out to ALPICOOL and asked them to send me out this freezer refrigerator combo is I noticed that it had a sticker here on the front that it said that it used like a LG compressor. So, you know, that's a pretty good name brand. I'm sure there's people out there that's going to say there's compressors that are better, and I'm sure that there probably is a brand name. I'm not no refrigerator technician, so I don't know. But I've owned a couple of these coolers. I think I've got 4 of them right now, 4 different brands. I've got an Igloo one, Iceco, and this one. I've got 2 Igloos actually. But yeah, these things work really well. And you know, if you're a prepper like me, these things can come in really handy. And you know, I like having multiple around just simply because these use a 12-volt motor, so you can plug them into a power station, or if you've got like an off-grid solar system like I do, you can plug it in directly to a DC outlet, and it uses way less power than what you might think. And so we're going to test that today. We're going to get you an exact number on what kind of power this thing draws from AC power from plugging it into your household outlet or plugging it into like a little cigarette lighter. So I want you guys to stay tuned, and this might be something that a lot of you might be interested in that you never thought that you might need. All right, so whenever you open the cooler out of the box, it comes with the cooler, and it comes with a manual, and I'll just go ahead and tell you right off the bat, the manual sucks. This is an honest review. I'm gonna tell it how it is. I know I said ALPICOOL sent it to me, but you know, I'm gonna give an honest review. Just keep that in mind, guys. Whenever you watch one of my reviews, I tell it like it is. You know, ALPICOOL, if you're watching, you need to make a dedicated user manual just for the T50 cooler, just simply because it's a little hard to understand, you know, because there's a lot of jumping around in here, that this will work with other coolers and it won't work with this one. So I would love to see them make a more dedicated user manual. Another thing that I didn't see in this user manual is this cooler actually has an app. You heard that right. This cooler can be controlled with the app, and that is truthfully the best way that I like to use the cooler, because I think it's easier to set up on your phone and through the app than it is to have to scroll through the control pad that's here on top. I'll get into that more here in just a few minutes. Now, your cooler also comes with this AC/DC adapter. And like I said, this is a 12-volt cooler. And so what it does is it takes the household power and converts it to DC power. So you go from AC to DC. You know, a tip for you guys is if you got a bunch of these little transformer things laying around and adapters laying around, things like that, get you a silver Sharpie like I did and write ALPICOOL cooler T50 on here. That way you don't get these mixed up with something else that you might have and actually plug in the wrong one and burn it up. Also, it does come with an adapter where you can plug it into your cigarette lighter, and then this plugs into the cooler. Now, real quickly, I'm going to run you guys through some of the features. You can see right here it's got some wheels. Now the actual wheel part is made out of a thick plastic, but then the outer part of the tire is made out of rubber. I don't normally see that very often, but these are rubber wheels. Usually they just make them out of cheap hard plastic, but this one's rubber so it don't tear your floors up. Now it is kind of heavy. It's somewhere around 30-something pounds. I'll actually weigh it here in a minute and give you guys a real and exact measurement. You can see that you have some vents. It's the same on the other side as well, so I'm not going to show it, but it is the same vent right there. So make sure that whenever you put this in your vehicle or wherever you're putting it, that you're not blocking these vents, because you know it's got to get some air in there so it don't overheat. All right, now the front of the cooler, you can see that it's got this little black band that runs all the way around the cooler, and I think it makes it look nice. It definitely feels like a premium cooler. The fit and finish on everything is really nice. And, you know, like I said, it has this sticker here, powered by LG compressors. You don't have to leave that on there if you don't want to. You can peel that off. And the same thing goes with the ALPICOOL. You know, if you don't want that on there, you can easily peel that off and take that off. You know, some people want it on there, some people don't, you know. Now, as far as the branding here on top of the lid, you can see that it's got ALPICOOL written on the lid there. Now, one thing I wanted to point out is if you look right here in the middle where I go to open it up, you can see that I had to hold the cooler and pull up on the lid, and that is because it is kind of hard to open up. And I guess that's a good thing, because you don't want it opening up very easy and losing all your cold air. But the way that it opens and closes is it's got these little plastic pieces right here, and it's basically just a friction fit. And you can see when I slide it down in there that it slides up against that plastic on the outer edges, and you can see that it's notched out. So when you push it all the way in there, it's indented. So when you push it all the way down, it kind of locks in place. So, you know, if you're going down the road, you know, let's say you got this in the back of your SUV or four-wheel drive, and you're going down a bumpy road, this thing don't just pop open. You know, you can sit here and pull on it, and it's not going to just come up. I would like to have seen a latch. I think a latch looks better because, you know, maybe over time this might wear out, but it would take it a long time to wear that out. But I'm just saying, you know, I think it'd been more premium to have a latch there myself personally. Now, when you open the cooler up, you can see right away it's got a really thick gasket right in there, and you can press on that, and it's really thick. So I gotta say, you know, that's nice to have the gasket on there, and then you've got this little raised lip that goes all the way around, so it, you know, it does make contact, and you can see right there where it's made contact all the way around that gasket area, and that way you know that it's nice and tight when it closes. One other feature that I noticed that, you know, not all these coolers give you is it comes with these baskets. Some cooler companies want to charge you for these baskets, and I'll be honest, it just kind of pisses me off when they try to charge you extra, and this stuff usually is not cheap. They usually want to try to do something stupid and charge you $50 for a couple of baskets. You know, I think $350 for this cooler is, I think that's a steal for as much that it comes with. Then you've got another basket here. So if you're wondering how much stuff you can put in this cooler, imagine what all you can put in these baskets. They're actually bigger than what you think that they are. So, you know, now one thing about the baskets I do want to make mention of is, let's say riding down a bumpy road or something like that, and, you know, you've got this in the back with the lid closed and everything. When you shake this, you are going to get a little noise from those baskets. So if you're the kind of person that little rattling drives you absolutely bonkers, then, you know, you might have to take and put some tape or something around the edges of the basket, or maybe pieces of felt or something to keep it from rattling so bad. All right, guys, so one thing that I wanted to mention that this cooler has is it has an LED light that shines where you can see what's in there. So that is handy. And then next, you've got this digital display over here. I'm gonna go ahead and turn it on. I've got it plugged into the wall there. So there's two different cooling settings that you can set this thing to. And, you know, it labels it here on the top. It shows that there's a square. So that means it controls this square side over here. Now, it shows a little, like a little notched out area. Well, that controls this side. So you've got a dual climate zone control. Now, the cool feature is about this is you can remove this divider and pull it out. And when you do, watch the display. It turns off the bottom in display, and it makes it all one single climate control, where it just turns the bottom one off. So whatever you got it set to over here, that's what it's going to be for both sides. But once you put the divider back in there, you can see that it comes back on, and you can control this side to whatever you want. And it goes way on down to like -4 degrees. So that's pretty crazy. And that's on both of these. I mean, I can get it all the way down to -4 on both sides. And I believe it goes all the way up to 68 degrees or 65 degrees, somewhere in there. Let's try it. And there's different settings you can set this thing. I mean, it has got some really cool features. One of the cool features that stood out to me is, let's say you've got this thing plugged up in your car and you're worried about, running your car battery down. Well, yeah, there we go. 68 degrees is the highest it goes up to. But yeah, let's just say you've got this thing plugged up in your car and you're worried that you might drain your battery. It's got a in the app, it's got a setting in there where you can make it turn off at a different voltage. So there's no chance that it's going to run it down, and it's just going to stop before it gets to that point. And one thing before I forget, you've got this little protective flap that opens up right here, and right behind it is a USB-A port. And so what this is good for is plugging in your cell phones. If we go camping or something like this, what I like doing is taking and plugging a VT power light bulb into that, because sometimes that light that's right there on the cooler might not be enough, or you might like having an extra light just hanging around your campsite or in the back of your vehicle, and this just gives you that extra place to plug in one of your electronics. And plus they do sell splitters for this, so you could plug in multiple stuff to, if you guys are interested in this light bulb here. It's from a company called VT Power. I'll put a link down in the description. These things only use 5 watts of power, and they do have a mechanical switch so you can turn them on and off. But one of the things I wanted to make mention is this control panel is turned off, and it still allows power to come through to the light. That is pretty cool. It doesn't have to be switched on in order to get power to the light. So if you're charging a phone out there, it's not gonna matter if the cooler's turned on or off. All right, guys, so like I said, this cooler has an app. I didn't see anything in the directions, so I just went to the Play Store, and I looked up ALPICOOL freezer, and then this popped up here, and I downloaded the app, and you can see that's what it looks like. So if it's in question which one you need to pick, it has that logo right there, so make sure you get that one. And then once you click on the app, I mean, it's really fast, and I went ahead and installed it on 2 separate phones just to see if there was any kind of interference, and there's not. I've actually got it on the phone that we're videoing from, and then I've got it on this spare phone that I've got, and it works flawless. It's pretty neat. It tells you, your temperature. It's 68 degrees Fahrenheit. You can set it to Celsius if you want to, and it tells you your battery voltage right there. And of course, we've got it plugged into AC power right now, so we're at 14.7 volts. So that's good. And then we can set our temperatures, and then we can also set it on an eco mode where it uses less power. And there's just a lot of settings to play around with. And then also you could set the battery voltage. I'm not going to get in too much into the app stuff, because once you see it and play around with it, I mean, it's pretty self-explanatory. But I just wanted to let you guys know what all you could do with it, and it's very easy to set up and all that. Now, to turn it on, you've got an on button right there. And as soon as you mash that button, you've seen how responsive that thing is. And it's got a good range on it. I mean, literally, this thing could go for a pretty good ways. So I really like it, and I think once you guys download the app, you'll see that you'll find yourself using the phone probably more than what you will the control panel, just because it tells you everything right there that you need to know. So one benefit to this being not just a fridge but a freezer is, let's say you didn't want to have this thing running all night. Well, you could definitely take and use the freezer part of it to freeze liquids, and remove that divider out of the middle, and keep some of your frozen bottles of liquid in there. So maybe that it would keep your food at least cold enough overnight to not spoil. Now, that's not what it's made for. It's meant to be plugged up all the time, because once it's not, once the compressor's not running all the time and it's on like eco mode, it don't use much power at all. So But I know some people are, you know, a little nervous about running it overnight, and I understand. I mean, it is scary to run an electrical device, you know, when it's your car battery. You don't want to damage it or something like that. So I do understand that. But, you know, if you've got some water jugs or 2-liter bottles, you can stick them in there, freeze it, and also use it as a way to keep it nice and cool when it's not running. Let's say you run into a restaurant or something. Let's say you're traveling, you run into a restaurant, and you know the outlet that you get this plugged into doesn't have constant power in your vehicle, and so it turns off. So if you've got some frozen bottles in there, you know, your food should be fine for probably, you know, a few hours, depending on how hot it is in the car and all that, depending on how much frozen bottles you got in there. Now also, you could put ice in here if you wanted to. It does have a drain plug in the bottom. You know, I mean, I wouldn't hesitate to put like a bag of ice in there, but I'm just saying, you know, that's not what it's meant and designed for. I mean, it's meant to be running all the time, but you can see that it has a drain plug, and it sits below, you know, the surface there. So if you put stuff in there, it's not gonna knock the handle off the drain plug. But the way that you take it out is it just pulls straight up. And yep, it's got 2 O-rings. Yeah, it's got a pop noise from that suction from those O-rings. It is pretty neat that it just pops out of there, and it's not gonna get in your way. It's not gonna be sticking up in your way whenever you're putting stuff in there. Yeah, you can see right here that I've got this Minute Maid bottle. It's 32-ounce bottle, and you can see that, you know, it's more than enough room in there for 2 liters to stand upright. And even on this other side with the basket in there, there's plenty enough room for that to stand upright. But there's more room in this thing than what you can imagine. One reason why I wanted this is, you know, if I go to Florida and catch some fish, deep sea fishing or something like that, you know, I can always take and bring it back in this in the car, and you know, it won't rot on me, it won't spoil. All right, guys, before we get into the testing and all that, I wanted to show you something I thought that was pretty neat, and it's got a handle that kind of pulls out. It's like a double handle, so it kind of keeps your hands away from the cooler, and it gives you a little bit more lift on that handle, you know, so your fingers don't get crushed, you know, if it was to bend, you know, or whatever. But I gotta say, you know, the handle does have a lot of ribbing and stuff in the plastic, and it does seem to be pretty well built. Now, when I first seen it, I didn't think that it was well built till I actually drug it through the house, and you know, it's a pretty nice handle. Now, one thing that I noticed is, you know, I didn't notice it right off the bat, is it's magnetic. This part here where it snaps up against the cooler, it's magnetic, so it don't just plop down. You know, it keeps up nice and tight to the cooler. So I thought that was pretty neat touch. And then to keep, you know, something from being too close, they put these little standoffs away from the edge of the handle, so you can't put something right up on the cooler and block the vents here on the end. So I thought that was pretty neat, that, you know, it's going to have, you know, a little bit more ventilation, and plus it's kind of indented right in here, so the vent is never going to really be right up against anything. But this was just an add-on, so, you know, it gives you a little extra. Anyways, I have the unit turned off right now, and I have it plugged into the AC power. I've got it plugged in right now just to a watt meter, and right now it's showing that it's using 0.8 watts, and I'm not sure why it's using 0.8 watts. I guess that's just like a standby power. Not real sure, because the unit is actually turned off. Whenever I turn the unit on, and keep in mind, I went ahead and removed the divider there in the middle because I'm going to run some tests on it, but you can see that it jumped up to 1 watt, and I would say that's because of the display there. So it's using a little bit of power, like 1 watt. I'm going to go ahead and drop this down and see what kind of wattage it jumps up to when that compressor kicks on. Let's see what it can do. I've got it set to -4, and it'll take it a minute. Yep, I heard the compressor kick on. 41, 42, 43. The highest that I seen was 43 watts That's not too bad. Pretty low wattage. So anyways, that's just an idea how much power it can draw when it's plugged in to AC power. I would say that it's going to be right around that in DC power. After all, this is a 12 volt cooler, so, and all this does here is just, you know, switches the power from AC to DC. So it'd probably be a little bit more efficient plugging it into a cigarette lighter. We'll check it here in just a second though. But I just wanted to show you that's where it's going to run at. 38, 42, somewhere in there. You know, it's fluctuating a little bit. And once it gets to temperature, obviously it's not going to use nearly as much power. It's just right now I've got it set to -4 and it was at room temperature. So right now it's really, you know, working hard to get it nice and cool. So for my next test, I'm going to go ahead and plug it into a portable power station. We're going to see just how cold this thing can get in, let's say, 10 minutes, and then 15 minutes, and then maybe 30 minutes. So stay tuned. All right, so we're going to do some testing today. And before we get into the testing, do me a favor, hit that like and subscribe button down below, because with all these lights in here filming, guys, it's hot. It's like 74 degrees in here. You guys got a old fat man sweating. We're going to do a test, and I'm going to put this sensor down in the cooler. But just to show you that this thing does work, I'm going to grab a hold of it for just a second. The sensor there on the end says 73.2. It should rise up pretty dang quick once it reads my temperature in my hand. All right, you guys seen that it went from 73.2 to 89.7 degrees, and who knows, it might jump up a little bit more. Yeah, 93, and it might, you know, jump up a little bit more. Like I said, I just touched this with my fingers, and I guess that's where it's going to stay, is around 93 degrees. But I just wanted to show you guys that it does work. It is a working thermometer. Yep, 93 degrees, that's where it's going to stay. So anyways, I'm just going to take it, and I'm going to put it right down into the cooler, and I'm going to run the wiring out the front there, and I'm just going to close the lid. Now for the power, I'm going to be powering it with a portable power station. And I have this thing fully charged. This is a power station that I keep around the house. It's one that I reviewed. It's got a cigarette lighter port on it. And so I went ahead and plugged it in to the cooler, and then I went ahead and pulled this cover off. You can see right there that it's at a 99% state of charge. So now that I've got the unit turned on, all right, I just made a blooper. I can't repeat it. It was pretty nasty. And it wasn't meant to be, but it was just a blooper. But I'm not going to show it. Anyways, you just take and plug in your cigarette lighter port into the power station there. And you can see this thing's fully charged, cooler turned on. And so it vibrated just a little bit. I could feel it immediately when the compressor kicked on. And the reason that I'm wanting to show you guys what it's like running on a power station is because a lot of you guys might be using it on a power station. I know a lot of you guys like running those EcoFlows and Blue Eddies and all the different fancy stuff. And even if you don't have one of those fancy ones, this one here just plugged into the power station, it says that it's using 35, 36, 37, 38 watts. So it's fluctuating a little bit right in there. And it says that running just like this, that it tells you the time that this power station could run it. So it's running at 34 watts right now and 37 watts, and the amount of time that it can run for is anywhere from like 21 hours, 20 hours, 19 hours. So that's the run time, 18 hours. So anyways, you guys get an idea. The run time on this thing is going to be, you know, somewhere between 18, 21 hours if it's running constantly at 35 watts. All right, so I'm gonna go ahead and start the timer. It's right now at 71.7 degrees, and we're just gonna see what it's gonna do here in you know, just a few minutes. But right now it's at 71 degrees. Like I said, I've got it set to -4, and it's using 37 watts of power. And again, you know, it can run for around 18, 19, 20 hours. Now, what I was saying is once it gets down to temperature, it's not going to run at that high of wattage. It's going to, once it gets up to temperature, it can slowly ramp down and work less. The compressor doesn't have to work as hard once it's down to temperature, and it doesn't have to, you know, strain like it's doing now to try to keep up. So it's going to use less wattage. So this thing, this little power station could actually run it for a lot longer than that, depending on just how much the cooler is kicking off. Now keep in mind, if you put this thing out in the middle of the sun, then obviously the compressor is going to run at full wattage, because you know you're trying to compete with the direct sun running on this. And that's one thing I don't recommend. If you look on some of the reviews on Amazon, it's pretty interesting if you go down through there. And I think this thing got 4.2 stars on Amazon. It's rated pretty high, but some of the reviews are pretty interesting to go through and read. You know, people use them for camping, and then a lot of over-the-road truck drivers use these to keep in their cab, to keep their drinks and their food cool. You know, they run them constantly, and you know, if you're in a big truck like that, that thing's bouncing all the time, and so you know that takes a lot of wear on a cooler. But anyways, right now we're just checking it out to see, you know, what kind of temperatures we're at. We're 2 minutes in, and it's 67.4 degrees. And then you can see right there, it says that it's 59 degrees. So it's a little off. I don't know if it's the display or if it's this. We'll check it here in just a few minutes. Now, one thing I do want to touch on, and again, I'm completely honest, you know, I'm very non-biased to the review, guys. I just want to make mention that it does have a little bit of a noise. It's very, very slight. I don't think that you'll be annoyed by it at all, but it does have like a little bloop, 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 bloop kind of sound. And it kind of sounds like, you know, the tube into a fish tank where it's, you know, giving air into the water. That's what it kind of sounds like. And what that is just a way to, you know, to get that coolant flowing through those lines to, you know, drop the temperatures of the freezer here. So you're going to get a little bit of noise, and then plus you get just a little bit of a fan type sound. And I would say that is the compressor. You know, it's pretty neat. It's like a little round type compressor, and it has like a motor on the inside, and it's surrounded by oil. And you know, I used to take them apart and scrap them and stuff, and I would say that's probably the same type of compressor here. It's got like a motor inside of a metal casing, and then there's oil on the inside of it, and so that just keeps that motor running nice and cool. Now obviously you don't want to, you know, put anything in front of this, because you can feel air moving across the front and even here on the sides. But you know, make sure that there's nothing up against that, so you can get ventilation, and it can keep that motor in there nice and cool, because the last thing you want to do is overheat it and it catch it on fire or something like that, or reduce the lifespan. Now come a little closer, and maybe you guys can pick up some of the sounds. I'll try to be quiet for a second. I mean, literally, guys, it's very, very quiet. Obviously, if you had this thing in the back of your SUV, you wouldn't even be able to hear it. I guarantee you wouldn't even be able to hear it over any kind of road noise or any of that. All right, guys, so we just reached the 7-minute mark there on the timer, and the sensor here says it's 55.2, and then right over here it says it's 49. So it's about a 5 or 6 degree difference between the two. Who knows who's right, who's wrong? You don't really know. But I just wanted to, you know, have this here as a, you know, some way to give a comparison to the display there. But either way, I can tell you this thing does get cold. I did stick a bottle of water in here last night. I sat here at my desk, and you know, I'm on here all hours of the night, because medicine that I'm on, it keeps me ramped up, and that's why I'm talking a million miles an hour tonight. I had a steroid shot today in the butt for my gout and heel spurs. Couldn't think of what it was, but anyways, so it keeps me ramped up, and so I stay up all hours of the night. And so last night I stuck that in there, and I think about 40-45 minutes I checked it, and it had ice in it. So it doesn't take long for it to get really cool. And like I said, I've had the thing for at least a couple of weeks. I've been testing on it. You know, I just didn't pull it out of the box and say, hey, this thing's great, buy one. Literally, I've been playing around with it to see what all, you know, it can do and how fast it takes it to freeze. All right, you can see right there, we're coming up on 10 minutes, 9 minutes and 47 seconds. And you can see right here, it shows 46.5, and then over here it shows 41. So it's getting cold, guys. So it's coming up on 15 minutes. And let's see, yeah, right there, 15 minutes right there, exactly. And so it says it's 36.8 degrees over there, and it shows right here that it's 29 degrees. Now, I will say that this one does seem a little bit more accurate the way that it goes down at 1 degree at a time, where this one will jump 2 or 3 degrees at a time. You know, you've seen right there it went 1, but I've seen it jump 2 or 3 degrees at a time. So, you know, not real sure, but it seems like to me that this one is probably a little more accurate. But, you know, it's nice to have some sort of comparison. One of these reasons why I wanted this cooler is, you know, let's just say that, you know, here in Tennessee where I live, the power goes off a lot. And, you know, sometimes it's off for, you know, a few minutes, sometimes it's off for a couple hours, but, you know, you always hear them, you know, out west and Midwest, you know, them turning people's power off and all that crap, doing the blackouts and the brownouts and all that mess. And, you know, I just don't want to, you know, be in a situation. And so, like I said in the very beginning of this, I'm a prepper. And so, like I said, I've got like 4 of these coolers. Got like this one here, an IceCo, and 2 of the Igloos. And I thought, you know, if something was to happen, I could easily power these little fridges and use less wattage doing it compared to running a full-size fridge. You know, if watts, you know, really didn't matter and it was a life or death situation, then, you know, you're only using around 57, 59, 60 watts at the most, 61 watts at the most, you know, compared to a regular refrigerator that you would have in a house. You know, they use anywhere from, let's say, 200 to probably about 1,000 watts, you know, depending on which one you have, how efficient it is, how old it is. Some of them older ones weren't so efficient. And so, you know, I'd rather, you know, if I'm running on solar and I don't have very many solar panels, on a normal day, you can, one 100 watt solar panel usually will at least get you 60 something watts. So it's just rule of thumb usually. But sometimes, you know, depending on the weather or the solar panel, how efficient it is, sometimes you might not get that much wattage. But on average, you know, you'll easily see 60 watts out of a 100 watt solar panel or more. So, you know, in an emergency, you could power this throughout the day with the solar panel and still be charging your power station just a little bit. So let's say you have 2 100 watt solar panels, you could use one of them to pretty much run the cooler, use another one to actually put more juice into the power station to charge it. And so that way at nighttime you'd have a way to run it overnight. You know, these are not exact numbers, this is just me talking out loud. It's not scientific or any of that. I'm not tested with a solar panel, but I'm just saying, you know, it's putting out using about 60 watts, and so with a 100 watt solar panel, you're going, you know, it's going to vary, like I said, depending on how efficient it is and how much sunlight you got and all that. But we're coming up right here on the 20-minute mark, and you can see over here it's at 28.4 degrees, and over here it's at 22. Now I gotta say, it has kept about a 6 or 7 degree difference between the two, so I guess it's accurate in that sense, is it's been separate by, you know, 6-7 degrees the whole time. Alright guys, so we're at the 25-minute mark, and you can see right there it says 21.3 degrees. Over here it shows 14 degrees. And then one thing I do want to point out, some of these power stations are not always right, and I didn't want to give you guys misinformation, which I did. And hey, I don't mind telling you guys. You can see right here it says remaining time in hours. So it shows 12 hours of run time. So earlier it was showing 18 to 20, 21 hours. Obviously it's not going to be able to do that. I think at first when you plug something in, that it has to, you know, kind of run for a few minutes and figure out, you know, how much wattage it's going to use. And a few minutes ago I seen it jump up to like 60, I think I seen 62 watts, 63 watts on here that it was using. And so that number, you know, decreases the runtime when the wattage goes up. So the more power you use, the less, you know, runtime that you're going to have. but right now it's saying 11, 12, 13 hours of runtime when it's running at 55 watts. Like I said earlier, it was trying to calibrate itself so that you're not going to get that 18, 19, 20, 21 hours of runtime. Sorry about that. I didn't think about it right off my head that it takes it a little bit of time to calibrate it. Plus, you know, you can do the math on here and, you know, you can determine whatever size capacity power station you guys have, measure the capacity and see how many watts this uses in watt hours and do the math on it, and that'll give you a rough idea of, you know, how long it will last. Anyways, it's really late in the morning. It's after 1 o'clock now, but I'm not going to do all the math for you because, you know, some of you are going to have really small capacity power stations and some of you guys might have some that are larger, and so the runtime is going to vary along with, you know, is it out in the sun, is it packed full of stuff. Keep in mind, if it's packed full of stuff and you get it down to that temperature, it's gonna not run as hard to have to keep all that stuff cool because it's already cold. So filling this cooler all the way up to the top is just gonna help it to keep that temperature longer and not kick on and use as much watts. Right now we're at 28 minutes and it shows 17.7 degrees, and then over here it says 10. And I was at 100% on the state of charge. Now I'm at 96% using 51, 52 watts. It's jumped up to 58 there for a second. And then it's saying 12 to 13 hours. And again, I don't know how correct that is. You know, you got to do the math on what size power station you got and, you know, where you got it placed. If it's in the sun, obviously the compressor is going to run harder and it's going to use more wattage, and it's going to reduce your runtime. Just keep that in mind. Alright guys, so you can see right there it's at 30 minutes and 11 seconds. Over here it shows 15.9 degrees. Over here it's showing 8 degrees. So yeah, it's getting there. And right here we're still at 95% state of charge, still showing 12, 13 hours. And it's showing about 50, 52, 53 watts of power being used. Alright guys, so we're almost to the 35-minute mark, and you can see right there it's at 12.3 degrees, and then right here it shows 4. So yeah, and you can see right there it's 34 minutes. And so one thing I do want to make mention of is whenever you get the cooler, I know you're going to be excited and want to plug the thing up, but the cooler is no different than a regular refrigerator. You know, you guys all know that when you move a refrigerator, let's say you move it on the back of a truck and you have to lay it down, when you go to stand it up, you never plug it in. And the reason being is because, like I said earlier, the compressor has oil that it's surrounded by. Like I said, that compressor is like a motor with oil around it, and you know, whenever you lay it on its side, the lines that carries the refrigerant gets oil from the compressor in there, and so it kind of clogs it up. That's why you want to stand it upright, because you never know, you know, the UPS guy could have laid this thing up on its end, and let's say you go to plug it in, if you've got oil in those lines where there's supposed to be refrigerant, it's going to clog it up and it can burn that compressor out in there. So make sure that you know, just good rule of thumb, leave it 24 hours in this position here before you plug it up. Like I said, I know it's awfully tempting to want to plug it up because, you know, you want to play with it and see how cold it gets, but you know, just do yourself a favor so you don't have to send the stupid thing back and have to deal with a return and all that kind of mess. But anyways, right now we're at 3 degrees. It's 36 minutes, and we're gonna see how low it can go. All right, so here we are, 40 minutes in, and it says 7.8 degrees over there and 0 degrees over here. And again, it's maintained that 6, 7, 8 degrees difference between the two. So who knows who's right and who's wrong, but like I said, I got a feeling this is more accurate than that over there. But just wanted to show you guys that it did make it down to 0. We'll give it a few more minutes and see how low it'll go, and you know, see if it can get down to that -4 like it says. So stay tuned. All right, so we're at 45 minutes, and it shows right here that we're at 5.5 degrees, and then over here it shows -2. So we're getting close to maxing this baby out. It's, oh, there's -3. So right now it's -3 at 45 minutes. Let's see how long it takes to get to -4, and when it goes over to -4, I'll come back and let you guys know exactly how long it took. If you hadn't taken this second to go ahead and, you know, like and subscribe to the channel, I sure appreciate it. I mean, gosh, guys, we've been sitting here looking at the damn stop clock on this phone for the last 45 minutes and 39 seconds. So, you know, we're not getting this time of our life back. So at least give us a like and subscribe, help us out. And, you know, if you're interested in this product, we are Amazon affiliates. And we'll put a link down in the description. And, you know, you guys can check it out there. And if you do buy it from my Amazon affiliate link, it does help my channel. And it does give me a little bit of commission. It's not much, guys. I mean, literally, you know, might buy me a cup of coffee or something like that. But anyways, you guys know that if you watch my channel, I'll give you an honest review. If I goof up on something, I'll tell you, you know, but, you know, in the end, you know, I set things straight, and I try to make it as the comparison with this to this as close as I can. Check out my channel, my other videos. I've got a bunch of power inverter videos, and I've got lots of automotive videos on my other YouTube channel. This is my second YouTube channel, so make sure you check out my others. But here we go, where it says that it's going to run for about 14 hours, 15 hours. Again, who knows how accurate that is. It's only at 93%, and it's using 48 watts. So with a little power station like this thing should definitely be able to get you through the night, no problem. Oh, there it goes, guys. So we're at 47 minutes, 43 seconds, and we're at -4. So it did get down to -4. You can see right here, though, check that out. The hours of runtime jumped up to 99 because only using like 1 watt of power. So that's what I'm saying, guys. You know, you might get, you know, 20 hours out of it or more. I mean, you know, what I said in the beginning might not have been too wrong after all, because, you know, once that compressor kicks off, it's not using much wattage at all. So if you can keep this thing in the shade or somewhere where it's cooler, you know, then it's only going to use less power, and shoot, this thing ain't hardly using anything. It's not even registering right there. Alright, guys, so I'm going to wrap this video up. The timer says 50 minutes and 34 seconds. It's still holding steady at -4. The compressor hadn't kicked on, so that is a good sign that, you know, it does seal up. That little weather strip seal does seal up really good, or else, you know, it would be raising in temperature and that compressor would be kicking back on. And so anyways, I just wanted to point out one more time that when I started with this, it was at 100%, and now it's at 93%, and right now it's not using any wattage at all, just like 1 watt. And there is a regular mode and an eco mode that you can put this thing on, and you know, you can play around with that. I just don't have hours to sit around and show you guys how much wattage that it can run on watt mode and how long it takes to get. This is very time consuming, but it has maintained itself. It just now went down -3. It was at -4, so it is warming it up. And I would say here in a minute or two, the compressor will probably kick on. But it's 51 minutes, 49 seconds, and it's after 2 a.m. in the morning. So appreciate you guys watching. Hope you appreciate the video and the efforts that we take to make it. So again, if you hadn't already, please like and subscribe. It really does help us. And put some comments down the bottom. You know, that does help the algorithm out and help the video get out to more people. And that way you guys know, you know, I'm going to shoot it straight to you. You know, I just give an honest video. So until next time, guys, thanks for watching. Please subscribe. Please like. And until next time, see ya.